Joining me this evening, we've got from Manchester Haunted, we've got Andy Lewin and Paul Hunt. We've also got from the East Manchester Paranormal Society, Stephen Kelly, who's the founder. We've also got Steve Scallon. That's right. We've also got with us Rose Nyland, who anyone, on the slightest possibility that there's any chance of this happening, any previous listeners to my show on Cholton FM might remember Rose. Rose is would we say spiritualist, Rose?
I don't go to spiritual.
Put you on the
church
spot.
or
Put you on the spot.
anything.
But you're
I'm
into
a spiritual.
you're a spiritual lady.
Yeah.
Into all things ethereal, etc., etc. We've also got Ord Clark in, who's got a fantastic story to tell us later on, coming up very soon actually, about an experience that she had. And all the guests in the studio are going to be talking about the paranormal. Obviously, with it being Halloween weekend, they're going to be discussing all things which, I don't know, let's just say anything untoward, anything a little bit spooky. That's what we're looking for this evening, anything a little bit spooky. We've also got Watershed regular Paul Mamigonian with us. Just to remind you, he's got his own show starting on the 7th of November, so don't forget to tune into that. The 9th?
The 9th and the 11th at 9/11.
Oh yeah, that's right. How could I forget that? Paul's show, any listeners from the first week will know that I'm not allowed to say conspiracy theorist. I'm not allowed to say that. He'll punch me. But but anything to do with secret societies, anything to do with Bilderbergs or anything like that, the old CNI, etc. Paul's show is going to be covering that on a weekly basis, starting on the 9th of the 11th at 9/11. And you know what? He's not picked that. That was thrust upon him. So there we go. How ironic is that? Anyway, if you'd like to talk to Paul, our medium, this evening, you need to give us a call as usual. If you want to speak to maybe you could put a call in. Maybe Paul could talk to someone from the other side, etc. That's my word of the week, by the way. Anyone that's familiar will know my word of the week. This week is etc. So Paul will be communicating via whatever strange vortexes there are, and he'll be happy to take your calls, take your comments, and we'll see if we can maybe connect you to the other side. Also, if you want to speak to Paul or any of our guests, you need to call, as usual, 0161 660 0545. Or if you want to email us, it's studio@manchesterradioonline.com. Now, last week, we had a flurry of emails that came through via the website, which is, if you go onto Manchester Radio Online, you click on this slot now, which is currently is Your Manchester, Your Music, YMYM. That will actually go through to our very helpful guy, Matty, the tech guy. So don't send them through to that address, or don't do it through that medium, pardon the pun, Paul. Actually send it direct to studio@manchesterradioonline.com. That's the best way for us to get it. If you do want to contact us, that's the way to do it. We've also got tarot readings this evening. So if you're interested in having a tarot reading, call us or email us through the same. Well, in fact, I don't think we could probably have an email tarot reading, could we? That would work.
It'd be quite difficult.
It would be quite difficult, yeah. So if you want your tarot card reading, definitely give us a call. But before we start, I just wanted to say thank you to all those who contacted us last week about the derby. As I said, we didn't get all the messages in time because they went through to another source, but the ones we did get through were great. Some a little bit bitter, although it's no longer bitter blues anymore, because to be honest, I suppose I'm a bitter red. Would you agree with that, Paul?
I've not seen anything since last week. I've been out of it, so...
Yeah, we're in hiding.
Yeah.
All those United fans, we're totally in hiding. Great joke, by the way. What's the difference between a black cab and Manchester United, Paul?
Something about getting 5 or 6.
A black cab will only let 5 in.
Yeah.
So there we go. So that's the I've loved these jokes, by the way. I think they're fantastic. This week, what we've got is we've got loads of guests. We've got 2 ghost societies in, as I've already said. We want your calls, we want your emails, and it's going to be a great show. Like I say, the studio is absolutely packed. So try and get ringing as soon as you can. Try emailing as soon as you can. But before we start that, we're going to have some music. And one of my favourite bands coming up.
ManchesterRadioOnline.com. From Manchester with love.
Michael Jackson there with Thriller. Vincent Price again there with his iconic laughter. You're listening to Manchester Radio Online. This is the Watershed in association with the Trevor Arms in Cholton. So first of all, I just wanted to say that the building we're in right now, it's got a very checkered history. You might want to close your... Paul said to me, by the way, Paul's our medium this evening. He doesn't want to know any clues beforehand about it, so you got to put your fingers in your ears, Paul. His fingers are in his ears, listeners, right? So through the 19th and early 20th century, this was a charitable place where unmarried women used to come with their children. They used to get bed and board until they found their feet. Obviously, this is back when things, it wasn't a liberal society like we live in now. An unmarried woman, someone who had children out of wedlock, for example, it was very, very, very serious thing, very frowned upon. So there was no welfare back then. These places were a sad necessity of the time. Some women would commit suicide here, and on several occasions those young empty mouths became too much to bear, and it was the children that unfortunately were killed, some blatantly, and some where the death was passed on as an accident. People have reported ghost sightings here, especially down the stairs, which we all came up in before we came in the studio. Those stairs, I think, are a little bit eerie, actually. A bit like Exorcist sort of thing, but those stairs do freak me out a little bit. And also, people have picked up now and again. That was a siren, by the way. That wasn't anything spooky, I hope. They've also picked up the sounds of young children. That's what people have complained about, and people have actually rang in to other shows and said, "Have you got a child in the studio, or whatever?" Because they've heard over the airways, allegedly, they've heard children either crying or laughing as well as one of the other things. So anyway, our guests tonight, they're going to let you know if they hear anything or see anything, and the board we're going to bring out later on, we may pick something up. That's if everyone's still willing to take part later on. I just want to say a little bit about myself. My first experiences of the supernatural, I was a very young child, and my dad's house is a very haunted place. And I've also said to the East Manchester Paranormal Society here in the studio that they might want to take a look at it coming up in the future. Now, maybe it's not as haunted as here, but to me it's always been a little bit spooky. My dad still lives there now. Things still happen from time to time. We're talking about bangings on walls, doors being shut. Nothing that really can be explained. There's too much of it, basically. There's too much going on for it just to be passed off as a normal thing. It's not that the walls are thin or anything like that. There's too much going on. Now, one thing that happened a couple of years ago was we actually had, my dad, I was living there then, a neighbour moved into next door and was complaining about noise that they were hearing. They were hearing people banging on the wall. They were hearing doors being shut. They were hearing people talking. And the person who owned the house next door said, "Don't worry about that. That's Roy's house. That's Roy's ghost." Roy's my dad, by the way. So all the neighbours are familiar with it. Everyone knows the legend on the street where my dad lives. I won't name it, obviously, but everyone knows about it. It's a well-known fact. Fact, that's an objective word, subjective word. But yeah, as far as everyone's concerned, it's a very, very spooky time. Now, what I remember about it, first of all, now I remember when we moved in there, this would be in the early 80s, I was too young to remember it specifically, but I remember the phone that was involved. Now, when my dad moved in with my mum, there was a leftover phone, and it was an old antique, the dial phones, you got to put your finger in. Now, this sounds, honestly, I swear on everyone that's dear to me, this is absolute true, right? They moved in, and this phone was still there, it was still plugged in or whatever, and the lady that lived there previously, it was an elderly lady who passed on. So they moved in the box and everything, and this phone rings. And it's an old, I remember it very well, green, like a lime green phone. So my mum answered, and this voice says, "Hello?" Mum goes, "Yeah, who's this?" Says, "Oh, I'm after, I think the name was Margaret, something like that." Says, "I'm after Margaret." Says, "Oh, that's the lady that's passed away. She passed away a few months ago." So the lady just hangs up, and my mum goes, "Hello, hello," and then she realises, and I swear this is not like some cheesy film, the phone wasn't plugged in. Now my mum swears that's true. Now my mum, to be honest, I'd always be 50-50 on what my mum says between us, but my dad says that's true as well. and I've got no reason to doubt what my dad says. So that was one of the spooky things. There's also been things where things have been thrown off the sides, things have been moved, things go missing. I've been there before where I've heard footsteps and all sorts of things. There's a space in the house itself at the bottom of the attic flat, which people have commented on. They've said that they felt very cold when they've gone there, and people have had a feeling, a sense. And the common thing, and the strangest thing is two people have stayed there without knowing each other, have both said that they had the feeling that it was a young boy that was there. Now, why they've said that, I don't know, but they both said the same thing. So that's a very freaky thing for me. I'm open-minded about the whole spiritual thing. I'm open-minded about ghosts. I'm not sure what's going on. I'm not sure, like any listeners that listened to the previous show about talking about science and spirituality. Maybe it's a vortex into another world. Maybe it's where the membrane between dimensions is thin. I don't know, but those are things which stick in my mind and were very, very creepy. But what we're going to do now is we're going to talk to our guest in the studio. I'm going to start with Rose to my right. Have you got any experiences, Rose, that you think would be worthy of mention?
I've had loads of experiences, Tom.
Go on, Rose, hit us with it.
The first ever main one, I'd say, was when I was between about 5 and 14.
Yeah.
It was at my grandma's house, and I'd just see like black figure with. It didn't look human. It was like an entity. It was like I called it the Hippo Man. That's just, from being a kid, I called it the Hippo Man. No one believed me, but I was so, passionate about it that now they kind of do, but back then they didn't. I must have saw it about 3 or 4 times in different rooms of the house, and no idea what it was, but it scared me to death. And I just cover my head over blankets and say Hail Marys and hope it'd go away. And that was the first time. I've had loads and loads.
So what I find an interesting point is that a lot of people of different religious faiths, if they encounter, I mean, it occurs throughout all different religions, people that have passed on who come back to visit the living, they all pray to their own deity or whatever. And a lot of people have found comfort in that, and they found that it's managed to banish, for want of a better word, this spirit. And I just find it strange, or is it strange, or is it an obvious thing, really, that if that works, is that more to do with a common, general deity that we're all part of?
It was just reassurance, really.
Yeah.
That's the only thing I knew what to do, what I'd been taught from a young age. I'm not religious now. Back then I was probably confused because it'd been drilled in my head about God and Mary and Jesus and all that. I'm not into that now. I respect it, but it's not my thing.
It's ghosts in Greek mythology.
Yeah.
And no one believes in Greek gods anymore.
I read a very interesting thing about ancient Greece, and I'm not sure if it was Pisistratus or someone like that said that he had a story where there was, I think it was actually on the Acropolis, where they went to visit a place which people complained, this is like 3,000 years ago, people were talking about 2,500 years ago, they were talking about a spirit that was there, and apparently it was a convict that was chained on the Acropolis as a punishment. And what they did is they sent one of the philosophers at the time. I won't try and embarrass myself by getting the wrong philosopher, naming the wrong philosopher, but this ardent intellectual of the period went there, and it's all documented. I think actually Pliny the Elder mentions it in his diaries. That it's a legend that was lived on into Roman times. But he went there, wrote for a while, and something did appear, and he did hear noises. And they dug up the bones, which were underneath this place where he was apparently chained, and it never bothered anyone since. So yeah, so like you say, Greek myth, ancient people, ancient societies have had a fascination with what comes next.
Recorded since the beginning of human thought.
Yeah.
You will find as well, and going back to what you just said with regards to praying to some figure, hoping for some kind of peace and comfort to maybe rid off that spirit energy, is that some of those spirit energies do respond to that prayer, because depending on what kind of, like you say, what kind of upbringing you're given, depends on what kind of belief system that spirit energy has as well. my belief is that when anyone passes over, that they will carry on being the same person. They won't change in any way, shape or form. They will still take with them their traditions, their values. And so if they come in contact with somebody who would, let's say, pray to a god different to theirs, the chances are that any kind of exorcism or any kind of moving on of that spirit won't occur, because they don't feel passionate about it.
On that occasion, though, it definitely wasn't human.
I believe, based on what you said already and what I pick up from it, is that what you're dealing with is what I call shape-shifting energy. And shapeshifters also work within the realm of elementals. Now, it wouldn't surprise me if you then told me that the property that you were in at the time was probably near water, graveyards or fields, where there's a lot of nature sort of elements, not just on, let's say,
That's
terrestrial.
true. That's true.
You can say that about anywhere.
You can say that about
No,
there,
this
but
particular
if-
property was near a graveyard and a meadows.
And
Right
I know
now, technically, we're near a graveyard.
you will also find that in those sorts of places, because I know a house like that just in Morecambe that I visited as a child for quite some time, and that was near a graveyard. It was by the sea, and that particular property has held nothing but bad luck. And so consequently, I've always put it down to something that I saw that was in that property, very much the same description as to what you were
Do you not
talking
think
about.
that sometimes there are these shape-shifting entities that feed from your fear?
Certainly, that's what they do. And you'll probably find that if you allow that sort of energy into your life or into your aura, what it will do is feed off your negativity that you may have, whether you know about it or not. It will also feed off of other people's negativity and energy, so that certain situations start to create and happen around you.
It's very bad feng shui in that house.
Yeah.
Very dark.
Well,
I'm getting colder by the minute sat here.
that's Ord, by the way. We mentioned before, Ord's got a great story for us coming up. I just wanted to remind everyone that we've got a couple of emails coming through already, but if you want to join in, it's studio@manchesterradioonline.com. Don't go through the website. If you go through the website, we might not pick it up. So it's studio, STUDIO, at Manchester Radio Online altogether.com. If you want to call in, it's 0161 660 0545. I wanted to ask the gentleman here from the East Manchester Paranormal Society if you want to move up towards the microphone, tell us a little bit about yourselves and
well, I've had personal experiences, but I don't know if they can be classed as like roses.
yeah.
The one that always stuck out in my mind happened in about April 2001, and I was living at. I've got 6 kids to 1 woman, and at the time I only had 2 kids, and there was a clock on the wall, and nobody was near the clock, nobody was near the wall. My missus was changing my children. I was sat on the chair. The clock just fell off the wall, but it physically, it didn't just drop down, it fell off. And my ex-missus could have been hit by it. A couple of minutes later, my mum phoned me to tell me that a friend of mine that I knew, that I'd worked with years earlier, had passed away. And for me, that's always stuck out in my mind. There's also been another one, which I just put it down to coincidence. The actor Desmond Llewellyn, when he died, the day he died, and before I found out he died, I was thinking about him, but I went home, didn't think anything of it, put the news on, Sky News, found out that he died in a car crash.
But the clock thing, though, it's a common story that we hear all the time, where when an event happens or we lose someone, that they do try and communicate in various ways. They try and give us a nudge, so to speak. And another thing is that I've read lots about is where clocks seem to stop, and at a specific time, and then people will find out that such and such a person, a relative or someone, a loved one, has passed away at that specific time. That seems to happen quite a lot. That's common throughout Western society, also through Eastern society, where the same kind of thing keeps arising.
What worried me about that though, Tom, was the fact that when it fell off the wall, it didn't just drop down as though it had come off the nail, because it was actually on a clock. You always get the little screw hole.
Yeah.
It had to be physically put, because my missus was a good 3 feet away from it, and it landed maybe a foot away from her.
Mhm.
So it had to be. I don't know. I'm open-minded to the possibility that things could exist or couldn't exist, and to me, I'm open-minded. It could have just.
Well, tell us a little bit about the East Manchester Paranormal Society and what it is you're hoping to do.
Right. Well, the East Manchester Paranormal Society. I set it up for two reasons. For two reasons only. The first reason, and probably the main reason, was because I have Yahoo as my homepage on the internet.
Yeah.
And last year, I seen a picture of which a photographer had taken at Grick Castle down in Abergele in North Wales,
Mhm.
of a window, and in the window was what seemed to be an image of a girl, right? And it got me thinking. He's a photographer. I'm a photographer. I use manipulating editing software, and it's dead easy to manipulate a picture. It's dead easy to make it look as though there's something there that isn't. You can make a picture look. You can make a person look as though they've blended in with the background.
Yeah.
I use that kind of software myself. I'm not saying he did that, and it just got me thinking. And I also did it because I got fed up of watching television programs that, for me, and this is not for everybody, and people don't have to agree with this, but for me, it just insulted people's intelligence.
Mhm.
And I just got sick of it. So I'm the type of person, the only way I'm going to believe it is if I go out and do it. And if people want to tag along, they can tag along.
Okay. See, one thing I've always found interesting when it comes to ghosts or spirits is I can believe that there's some kind of common connection between, I don't know, like, for example, if people, you have a feeling that someone's going to call you, or you're thinking about someone and they ring you, right? That's, to me, that's a mental connection. That's something that we've got. That's something that maybe it's primeval, maybe it's something that goes back to the dawn of time. What I have difficulty with is when people see a being or hear a being, because to me, your ears can pick up vibrations which turn into sound. Your eyes pick up a mass. Now, I'm all for the idea that if someone's passed away and they still exist as a being, that we can perhaps have a psychic connection to them. I'm all for that idea. I struggle to believe that I'm hearing someone in my ear, because if I'm hearing someone, that means that they've got lungs to provide a voice which my ears pick up. Now, of course, that's just me being, not cynical, but using my knowledge of the world to try and explain things that happen.
You are actually on the right track there, because for myself, my own experiences, and any genuine psychic or medium out there, they would actually say to you that whenever you see a spirit person, it's usually with the vision of that person within the mind. And I was having this discussion this evening, that when a spirit person comes to myself, I'll see a vision of that person as to what they would look like. I don't physically see them with my own eyes. When a spirit person would be talking to me to pass on any kind of information, it would usually be them impinging some kind of thought upon my mind. And everyone has this experience, and it's very much like reading a book. And as you're reading those words, they're not your words, but those words are being placed within your mind, and it's the same experience. The people who say, or claim to be psychic or mediumistic, who say, I can hear your relative just as you can hear my voice now, for me, it isn't true, because the spirit world cannot enter that sort of energy on a constant level like that. If you ever do hear a spirit person, on what I call on an objective level, so whether you're hearing it or seeing it, it's usually there for a couple of seconds. So you might get 3 or 4 words where you're hearing it as you can hear my voice now, and then the rest will go out within the medium's mind, or the person who's reciprocating the message.
Okay. Well, what we're going to do now, Paul, is we're just going to take a quick break, because we've talked for a while now, and then we're going to come to Ord, who's going to tell us about her experience. But before we do that, we've got some music coming up, and then we're going to be right back to it. As usual, if you want to call in 0161 660 0545, or email studio@manchesterradioonline.com. That's the specials with Ghost Town. Ironically enough, is this supernatural goings on, but our mics aren't working, as you may have already noticed. We've had a lot of emails in saying that they can't hear anything. We've also had a couple of texts in as well, to my personal text saying that. So thanks everyone for pointing that out. Hopefully we should be able to hear everything now. Rose, you want to say hello?
Hello.
Do you want to say hello, Ord?
Hi.
I can hear you perfectly now. There we go. Problems should be sorted. I do apologise, listeners. Technical hitches, or is it something to do with what we're doing now? Who knows? Ord, there you go. Would you like to tell us a little bit about your experiences that you've had?
Okay. Gosh, I mean, I can go back as many years as I want, but I'll come back to the present day. A few years ago, about 12 years ago now, I was in a car coming back from visiting a friend in Cheshire. I was on the M60 just by junction 10 near the Trafford Centre, for those of you that know, heading basically towards Worsley and Swinton turn-off. Very silly thing I did, I've got to be honest. I nodded off in the car. For no reason at all. It's never happened to me before. I was in the slow lane and I felt that moment where your eyes start to go a little bit heavy and you do that nod thing and then blink really quick, open your eyes. That didn't just happen once, it actually happened 3 times. And yeah, I should have pulled over. No, I didn't, because for those of you that know, junction 10, 11 and 12 come very quickly, and I wanted to get home. It was 11 o'clock on a Sunday night. Before I knew it, the third time it happened, only I didn't get a chance to close my eyes and open my eyes, because my car was careering into the central reservation of the motorway. I'd gone across 3 lanes. Just prior to my accident, there were 3 full lanes of traffic. It was 11 o'clock on a Sunday night, combination of cars. I remember the Asda lorry, presumably delivering goods or whatever, hit the central reservation. Boy, did I wake up. That's one way to make yourself wake up on the motorway. Panicked, said goodbye to everybody in 10 seconds. It's amazing how many people you can say goodbye to in 10 seconds. And at that moment, as I tried to correct myself and turn the wheel the opposite way, or into it or out of it, a very strange thing happened. My passenger door opened during the accident. And, so excuse me, I'm getting really cold now. And something got into the passenger seat of my car. To the degree it was so obvious that it had happened, that during the course of trying to straighten my car to solve this accident and get myself out of potential death, I actually took time out during that manoeuvre to look to the passenger side to see who was in there. I was the only physical being in the car at the time. As I then hit the barrier, this person, thing, entity, whatever you want to call it, got into the car, and at that moment I did feel incredibly calm. Like, this is surreal, I'm in the middle of a serious accident, I feel calm. I spun the wheel, the car careered basically from the barrier back towards the slow lane as was, and as the car slammed into the slow barrier, the final side, at that moment of impact, that entity left my car. So it was only in from the point of the central reservation back again. It had gone, it had absolutely gone. My knee slammed into the steering column, this entity had gone, and I thought, right, okay. And then the next thing, I hear a softly spoken woman at the side of me saying, "Are you okay?" And for one moment, I actually thought, am I here or am I somewhere else? Really? I then heard a police car. They came. It was now very dark. I hear the police officer say to me 2 things. "Are you okay? Have you had a drink?" I said, "Don't know, not sure about my legs. No, I've only drunk bottled water." He says, "Do you mind stepping out of the car?" Not knowing the damage that I'd done to the car, I said, "Well, can you not get into my side?" And he said, "Sweetheart, even if I wanted to get into the passenger side of your car, there's no way I could," at which point I thought it was maybe a bad accident. I get out of the car, I look to the motorway, there are 3 full lanes of traffic as per the accident, yet during the time it took me to hit the barrier, correct myself and go back across, Not one single solitary vehicle was on the motorway at that time. When I got out of the car, I waited for the truck. The truck came, the pickup truck. When I went the next day to look at the car, what the police officer told me, he said, your car's a write-off. You've literally walked away without a cut, a scratch from a vehicle at 11 o'clock at night on a Sunday night. Not one single vehicle during the time of the accident. In my belief, that whatever friend, entity, angel, whatever you want to call it, that got into my vehicle came in for a reason. And my opinion now is it came in to stop the traffic, because that was the only way I was going to survive that accident. I wasn't going to kill myself hitting the barrier possibly, but the likelihood is when you're on a motorway, you get hit by another vehicle, and that's what injures you. I never forgot the experience. I never had a car crash ever, thank God, like it. I've never been able to explain what happened. I know what happened, and I always said I would say in a court of law on the Bible exactly what happened. It was the freakiest, scariest thing that ever happened. But what it did for me, I'm just talking to Paul now, but what it did to me, Paul, it opened a door, and it led me into accepting that there was another side to life. It led me eventually into going to a spiritualist church and going and doing open circle and giving readings. I constantly have visitors in my house. It's a 3-story house. Constantly have people walking upstairs, shutting doors. I hear voices. I hear people saying stuff to me. I hear what I call a psychic telephone, a bit like Tom was saying before, but like the trim line phone. You know that ring?
The amount of times I've heard of people who've had some kind of tragic accident or some kind of near-death experience, which is what you were possibly having at the time. Just something along those lines, or someone passing away suddenly opens up a whole new world for them of being able to connect with people either from the other side of life, becoming more spiritually aware of themselves and of other people. And to me it sounds like you've had that door open for you. However, go back to childhood. I know for a fact that you would have had experiences of that sort anyway. However, due to the way in which we're brought up, based on what we're meant and told to believe in by the media, by the teachers who are around us, and so it goes on, those people influence as to what we can see and hear and feel. However, certain experiences will reopen that up.
Can I just interject briefly? One thing that I've always found amazing is that people who are afraid of the supernatural, people who are afraid of ghosts. Now, to me, from what your experience implies, if everybody knew that there was nothing to fear, that we carry on, that we are in a way immortal or whatever, surely that is the most amazing news. It's like being told you're cured forever of life, of death.
If you have a look at the world around us, and we hear a lot of conspiracy about 2012, about how people are becoming more switched on to their spiritual gifts, becoming more switched on to being more sensitive and aware, that eventually my belief is that everybody will be able to have that connection with people in the spirit world, people who are walking on the astral planes. And if you notice that over the last couple of years, that more and more people have become more aware because of certain TV shows that have been on TV who talk about, investigate the spirit world, and in a way it's all a switching on period, and this is something that we seem to be
what about the flip side of that then? What if we find out categorically that there is no such thing as a ghost? There's no, once you've finished this life, that's it, done. Doesn't that make life now more precious?
Life should be precious anyway.
Well, yeah, but you know, people thinking, oh, I'm going to go drift off to this beautiful place or roam the world forever, I don't know what happens. But you've got that hope to cling on to, that, well, you know, life's bad now, but something better will happen when I die.
Not necessarily, not at all.
That's what you're saying.
No, it's not. What I'm saying is that people become more aware of the spirit energies that surround them. Now, if let's say you're a very negative sort of person, has certain beliefs, you'll still carry on with that belief process when you pass over. You will
So I'll still be like, I don't believe in ghosts, but I'm a ghost.
Yeah.
That makes no sense, mate.
Can I just say that about a year ago, somebody I was quite close to passed away, and in the end they passed away quite suddenly. And like that thing that you always hate when somebody passes away, if your last conversation was one that was with bad feeling, or you'd had an argument. And after the death, I actually said in anger to myself, well, you can't even come now and see me, can you, to sort this out? Really random, stupid thing to say, I know. I went to bed that night, and in the middle of the night, I actually had somebody slap me. Like, you know, like one of those, almost like a comedic thing where you slapped across the face backwards and forwards, to the degree I was actually scared to death. And yet I'd said that in anger, and it was a very physical slap. It wasn't kind of like a touch, it was a very physical slap. To the
Viewers at
degree.
home, she just struck me, by the way.
No, I didn't.
Only just met
Should I
tonight, she
show
hit
him?
me.
It looked
Like
quite
that.
it looked quite sore as well, might I
Also
add.
find
It looked rather
that
painful.
In the spirit world, you create your own reality. So where you're saying it can't possibly be that you're the same person and so it goes on, you create the reality that you want around
Do you not think that about the physical world as well?
Well, of course we do.
Yeah.
Of course we do. If you want to be surrounded by positive people, which is something I love to be around, you'll create positive people
Yeah,
and you'll
I believe
attract
that.
that. If you want to be attracting negative people who are down and out, doing nothing with their life, have nothing to say about themselves, then again you'll create that sort of reality around you.
I think if
That's a human
you
characteristic, though.
It is, and that human characteristic
It's all right.
is an energy.
Oh.
And everything that we send out within our mind when we're talking, it's an energy being created. So stuff that we send out, it will eventually come back to us.
Especially what you think about yourself.
Yeah. And other people.
Yeah.
I love everyone in this room.
Right, well, on that note, we need to play some music because we've gone on with ourselves a little bit, but it's been fantastic. So we want to carry on the same vibe. We're going to be getting on to Andy Lewin, and also we're going to hear more from Paul. We're going to talk about Manchester Haunted and the kind of work that they do. But first of all, again, I'm very biased here. We've got some more Rolling Stones coming up.
You a student?
Do you want doing?
We can help you with that.
Dan and Mike do students.
ManchesterRadioOnline.com every Tuesday, 7 till 9 p.m.
From Manchester with love.
Guns N' Roses there with Sympathy for the Devil. Again, my bias is showing itself through. We've got Stephen here. He's got what's that gadget called, Stephen?
Which gadget do you want? I've got a couple of EMF detectors.
EMF detectors.
Yeah.
And we're trying to pick up because Ord and Rose have both said that they've had a bit of a strange feeling while in the studio.
EMF detector. EMF stands for electromagnetic field. But
Yeah.
You can also pick up an EMF detector. Can also pick up electric kettle, monitors on a computer. So in a room like this, you'd have to be careful and not say, well, it's paranormal. If there was nothing electrical in this room and it started and the EMF detector started spiking, you'd probably.
Yeah, fair enough. How would you describe it, Ord?
Well, when I first came in the studio tonight before we started, I sat on this chair, and what I actually said was, I feel as though I'm sat in a dead person's lap.
Oh.
I've come in here in the studio tonight, guys, and I've got a jumper, a thick top under the jumper, and a black leather jacket. It's took me an hour and a half just to unzip my jacket. I am absolutely freezing. Everybody else is sat around me here with t-shirts, shorts, apart from my friend here at the back.
He never takes
Everybody's sat in t-shirt and shorts. I'm thinking there's something wrong with me, but I am just chilled completely, and I know the studio is not cold.
Roasted, isn't it?
Well, I'm quite warm, yeah. But I wanted to ask Andy. We've not spoke to you yet, Andy.
Hello.
We've actually had a couple of emails through, and obviously you've not had a chance to talk yet, so I wanted to see what you thought of it.
Okay.
But I want your opinion on whether ghosts are conscious beings or whether they are merely I don't know, say a leftover energy. A recording, so to speak.
Yeah.
I think we talked about a couple of shows back where the Moravian settlement in Audenshaw, people walk past and they hear the sound of battle. It was a Roman fort.
Yeah, in York.
Yeah.
People see an entire Roman legion walk through.
Exactly, and people are suggesting that could be something to do with the weather, where I think it's certain types of granite can record, just like vinyl records.
There's a theory called the stone tape theory. I'm sure you guys have heard of it, and it is literally that the fabrics of buildings can actually record time.
Mm-hmm.
So saying like 100 years from now, we might be, there might be someone completely different here, and all of a sudden they see us guys all sat here, and then we're just gone. All of a sudden they think, oh, we're haunted, but it's just a recording in time. There's a similar theory to do with water as well, that water can record events, and that's why people can see, because there's a lot of paranormal activity allegedly happens near water.
Yeah.
And apparently water can have memory, and that's what homeotherapy is all about. And homeopathic remedies, I'll talk about these kind of things as well.
Well, it's funny you should mention homeopathic remedies, because Rose, who we were speaking to before, Rose has got a bit of experience when it comes to homeopathy.
Yeah.
But one thing I would say is, like, it's back to the original question, is, in your experience, do you feel that there is more to say that it is purely there's a scientific explanation to it?
In my experience, yeah. In my experience, I've never interacted with anything on an investigation. I've experienced things that you find I have trouble to explain it, especially when I first started. I thought the idea of ghosts is idiotic, to be honest with you. When I met my now wife, I'd never thought about it my entire life. So I move in with her, and little things happen, but you just explain them away, as rational-minded people do.
Mm-hmm.
But I bought her a dog for her birthday, and instantly the house felt uneasy. You walk in, I thought, there's something wrong. Every time you walk up the stairs, you got this feeling someone's right behind you. And I thought I was like a grown man. I'm pegging up the stairs like an idiot to get to bed. It got to the point where we were leaving the TV on, just on static, because we didn't want to be in the dark. It was strange. There was one night where I was at the bottom of the stairs, and I looked up and I saw my stepson walk into the room where we keep the DVDs. So I'm thinking, what the hell's he doing up this time of night? When I walked into the room, there was no one in there. It got to the point where we'd be sitting in the front room, and these were events that we'd actually got used to, where a big flash would just go off in the middle of the room, like a light would poof, and we got used to it in the end. That's how pathetic it was.
Mm-hmm.
And it seemed all centered around us getting this little dog. My wife had this night where she sort of woke up and she wasn't speaking like her at all, and she was being angry towards the dog and trying to like hurt the dog. And if you know my wife, no one means more to her than the dog. Hopefully me. Shut up, Paul, I'm still talking. I'm just joking. But no, yeah, I just want to say at this point where it got to this one point where we were upstairs and we could hear all these bangs downstairs, and she's like, you have to go and check, there's someone in the house. So I did the cliche, grab her back, come down, and a light switched off as I was going down the stairs. So I goes into the kitchen with the bat light on, ready to hit whatever it was. There was no one in the room, and we used to keep the dog when we first got her in a cage because she'd poo all over the house, and literally the cage was just shaking violently, and the dog was still with her ears back. So I grabbed the dog, legged it upstairs, and thus fueled my passion for the paranormal ever since. So I thought,
was the dog got from a rescue centre?
No, not at all. It was we bought it from just a nice home, really. In fact, it seemed like the dog picked my wife actually, because the little dog got her head caught in a pocket, and we thought, well, we'll have this one before we kill it.
Perhaps the dog has opened up energies that are within the house, because I believe all animals are psychic. They have psychic ability. And depending on what energies you have coming into your home, that could also make you aware of also what's within the house. It's probably already there within the house, just that dog's opened it up for you.
So did you just say before they kill it?
Because the dog's head got caught in my wife's pocket,
I thought you meant
and we
the
thought we better
like
take it
the
before. No, nothing like that. Trying to make a witticism and it didn't work.
I was just going to say, email I think directed at Paul, it's not specified, is about some of the more dodgy characters that have passed themselves off. Now, obviously, just let anyone know listening now that Paul isn't being paid to be here now. He's here of his own volition. He's volunteered, so he's got nothing to gain, so to speak, from it. And people are a little bit sceptical. I think the Derek Acorah scenario has
I've
warned
had, I've
people.
had mediums
Yeah.
who have pretended to be friends with me.
Yeah.
Whether I've said things on accident or other people who know me have said things, so I've used my past as a weapon against me. There's some mediums. Paul, I'll be honest. I've been doing this for 8 years now. Paul is the only person I would ever invite to do anything.
Yeah.
Because he's a great guy. Mediums, I don't know. You know what I mean? I'm always sceptical, even though he did tell me that my car was going to break, and then it did. But
well, it completely and utterly blew up.
it utterly blew up. Yeah, thank you, Paul. But there are some horrible mediums out there, horrible people who will prey on vulnerable people. People who'll talk to a grieving mother whose child has died, saying, "I'm talking to your daughter here now."
Yeah.
Just to get money out of someone.
Yeah.
These people, it's horrible. What some of the things these people do, and I've met them.
Well, it's heartbreaking. It's exploitative, and I always feel like if I had that gift, which obviously I've not got that gift, if I had that, I could think. Well, first of all, like going back to the original point I was saying previously, if you know for a fact that there's another world, and you know for a fact that there's something afterwards, what would be the point in trying to exploit it on this short-term existence that we're on now? What would be the point of that?
Money.
Yeah, exactly, money. But of course, if you've got an eternity and an afterlife, that you've got a finite period of time prior to that, surely that's gonna, it's a waste of time. You're wasting your own time. If you can help people while they're alive, and you've got that talent, you've got that ability, why would you restrict it to people that can afford or people that can pay to do that? When really, it's if you've got that gift, you can help people and you can do something positive while they're alive. That's what I don't understand.
I think that's the thing with Spiritualist Church, and that's just from experience of going solidly for about 6 months, is that generally speaking, people who go to the Spiritualist Church don't get anything. I mean, the visiting spiritualist, I think there's a set fee, which I think is something stupid, like about between £8 and £16 for a session, which is basically to cover your travel, because if they're working on a circuit, some of them are travelling quite a distance, and it's the petrol. So there's no monetary gain from doing something like that. However, after saying that, then there are those, depending on how much exposure, publicity they've had, who can then technically command an awful lot of money.
There are mediums out there who do that, who've been on TV shows, and so it goes on. Now, my belief, because I always get this question, Paul, do you charge to do private readings? And the answer to that is yes, I do charge to do private readings. Now, it's not the gift I'm charging for, it's my time. Because I've always said that if I wasn't at this particular place, I could have been doing another job, I don't know, working behind a bar, pulling pints. A singer, they're given a voice for free, which changes many people's lives, but they get paid to sing. So it's not the gift, it's the time.
Okay, so let me ask you this, Paul. Let's say you, I don't know if you played the lottery, but say you won the lottery or you had a windfall and money was not an issue.
I've had this discussion before.
Would you charge?
Yeah, no, because I can dedicate my time to helping other people without having to put a fee, because my interest from the bank will pay for that over anyway.
See, it's like my problem has always been with these evangelists in America. Not that it's just America, they're all over the world. But these people who will cure the lame and they'll heal the sick for a fee.
Yeah.
And a lot of them are, let's just say, well off.
Shaggers.
Yeah. No, but a lot of them are very financially secure. That's when I get a little bit sick when I think about that. Obviously, if someone, people, you need to feed yourself. Obviously, you need to pay the bills. That's a different thing. I'm talking about these people like, I can say this, it's internet radio. I'm okay. Derek Akora, who have been shown to be fraudulent. I think we were talking about that before, weren't we, Rose, before we started the show?
Still go to watch him.
Yeah, people
he's
still,
been proven to be a fraud.
Yeah.
And he's still getting about £30,000 a night playing in theatres.
I've got an experience with that. I actually saw him perform at a venue in Salford, and it wasn't going particularly well for him. And he laboured the point 3 times about a young man in spirit who'd been stabbed or murdered, and he wouldn't give up throwing it out until somebody came back with something that was completely not that. He said it was a young man, 15, 16, who'd been stabbed. And nobody took it up, and then it was a woman who come up. She says, well, I know a girl who used to live down the road, but it wasn't a stabbing, and she was in her 20s.
Mm.
And he used that then and went off on that road.
Right in the medium to
And on that
make
night, half a dozen people got up and left because they were just. But there again, the flip side of that is I've seen him perform at the Opera House, and he's done an amazing job. So just in case he is online, I'm only pointing out what I've observed,
Yeah.
and I have seen him do an excellent job. So I don't know.
I've got a question for you. If you was a true psychic medium, you had this true gift, then why would you want to charge for something like that?
As I was saying before, what you're doing is you're not charging.
Yeah, but you're charging for your time. But if it was a gift, if you could just see somebody randomly on the street,
then what you'd be doing,
and you could tell them about their life, and you didn't know that person.
That's different, though, isn't it? There are mediums out there who do that sort of thing, and usually.
But if it's a true gift, you shouldn't have to charge for it.
Usually,
I understand what you're saying, but I teach guitar for a living. If I'm driving to someone's house, I want them to pay my fuel and my time for being there. That's all Paul's saying.
They will become a better guitarist if they have guitar lessons. I play the piano. I'm a better pianist because I have piano lessons. I'm not going to become a better medium.
No.
Because I'm not going to be a better person because you.
Yeah, but you're not trying to become a medium.
Yeah, you're not trying to learn from them.
No, all I'm saying is if you ask a medium to come to your house, you want that medium to come to your house for peace of mind or maybe just a reading.
Yeah,
so
but
you're
if it's a true psychic
medium,
medium,
you're employing that person by asking them to come to your house.
I'm not
Of
saying
course. Can I ask just to play devil's advocate, Stephen? Let's say that you were gifted with that talent.
Right.
And somebody rang you up from, I don't know, where do you live right now?
I live in East Manchester.
I live in East Manchester.
I live in Beswick.
Of course, okay, Beswick. So say someone called you from Stoke,
right,
and said, I've had a relative just passed away.
Right.
I need some guidance. I need some help. I need to speak to them. I want to communicate with them. I've heard you're great. And you went to Stoke, right? And you sat down with them 2 hours. Would you do that off your own back?
I'm a professional photographer and I take pictures off my own back.
I'm saying,
no, hang on.
Go on.
Off my own back.
Yep.
Right. Whatever I do off my own back. Right. I don't charge for anything in life that I do. I don't charge. So if I was a true psychic medium that had a true gift, I would do. That's only me. I can't speak for anybody else, but I would do that for nothing if I felt.
Well, do you have another job as well?
No.
So how do you get any money? How do you live?
I'm on the dole.
Right.
But when I say I'm a photographer, I'm a professional photographer.
Right, I get what you mean.
But I'm unemployed professional photographer.
Right.
But if you came to me and said, can you take some shots of me, I wouldn't charge you for them because it gives me more experience as a photographer.
But the difference is I wouldn't let you do that. I'd have to pay you money on my own conscience.
But I wouldn't want to take your money because I just want the experience.
But you'd rather have the doll?
Can I just say that?
Makes sense.
Can I just say that Kim from Hyde says we should be a bit nicer to Paul because he sounds very nice. Apparently, there you go. You Paul.
We are all good friends, though, in here.
We are.
But she'd like to know some examples, some really good examples of people that you've helped, people that you've managed to bridge the gap, people who've been lost, people who've lost relatives, loved ones, and how you've been able to be an intermediary.
Okay, probably to start off with that, I need to probably do a small talk about my background.
No problem, Paul. If you're going to do that, is there any chance you could just nudge towards the mic?
Certainly.
Just so, because we have, like I say, we've had loads of people texting in, emailing in, saying that they've not been able to hear us. It's all yours, Paul.
Well, for myself, from probably about the age of 4 years old, my parents noticed that I was talking to people that no one else could see. Fortunate for myself, unlike a lot of other children who have a gift, I was brought into a family that were psychically aware. Had a lot of support from my great aunties, my parents who attended spiritualist churches, so they already had a good knowledge and a good background on being psychic and being spiritually aware and being aware of spirit people. When I got to the age of 11 and going through many different experiences through school, one of my best mates, he turned out to be a spirit person, not an actual physical pupil in the class. And when starting spiritualist churches, I started going for spiritual healing to help balance my chakras, my auras, and at which point it opened up another door for myself where I started to develop within the circles that the spiritualist churches ran. That then led me to working the circuit as a spiritualist churches up and down the UK, where I would go onto what's known as a rostrum, a platform, and feel drawn to speak to somebody. And for example, I'll be aware of someone's grandmother coming through, or mother, or daughter, or uncle, whoever that relative may be, and that relative will tell me, I want you to go specifically to that particular person, not this laissez, I've got Mary here, she's 5'3", wearing a nice floral dress.
Well, the cliche one is anyone know someone called Dave?
That's
the one,
that
isn't
sort
it?
of thing. So it was none of that, because I heard a spirit or sense of spirit as to where they wanted me to go. And from probably in the age of 13, 14 years old, serving churches right the way up into the present day, I'm 27 now, that's the sort of work that I've done. There's probably countless of experiences where people have got back to me, they've emailed me saying thank you so much for bringing such a body through. The stuff that you were saying specifically about that person who's passed away, we could all take. I've had people who've emailed, I'm an absolute skeptic in all of this, however you've told me stuff that not so much not known would know about, but people within that person's close community would only know about, and would understand the sorts of things that that spirit person was trying to get through. A couple of years ago I was actually doing a paranormal investigation, and I felt drawn to speak to one of the clients on that investigation, and I was telling them about a relative that I was aware of them, who was drawing close, and the information they were passing on. And the information they were passing on, they couldn't quite take at the time. However, they went back at home, discussed it with other family members to find again that information was proven to be correct. I'm quite humble in the work that I do, and I don't particularly go around asking, what did you think to that reading, what do you think to what I've just told you. When performing, either doing a demonstration of mediumship or doing a private reading, all I ever ask of a client is say yes if you understand the information, say no if you don't understand it, I will go back and ask for more information. So that will then rule out, let's say, the cold reading, what we were discussing earlier. And I will never do readings for friends, I won't do them for family, because you've always got that at the back of mind, I already know too much. I wouldn't do any readings for anyone in this room now, because I've got a good feel as to everyone's personalities and characters, so therefore on a psychological level,
well, that's my next link reading, Paul.
On a psychological level you can pick out quite a lot about somebody. I like to work on a blank canvas. But again, in the response to the lady's question, there's many people who've had comfort in that, maybe not there and then on that day of the reading. It could be maybe a few weeks later, when they've actually had time to digest that information, that's when they've been able to say, actually, I can now move forward in my life. Another thing that crops up quite a lot, and a lot of questions that people say to you prove to me you talk to the dead, prove to me that you're psychic. And I also, my response to that is, well, actually, I don't need to prove anything, because I know what I see, I know what I hear, I know what I feel. And my belief is that it's up to one's individual to find that proof for themselves, like I had to find it for themselves, for myself. I'll assist and help somebody find that proof that will help them, but I can't, and no one can, conjure it up. It's impossible to do that.
Well, Neil from Bradford, of all places, I don't know why, well, obviously it's online, so anyone can hear anywhere. Neil from Bradford says, loving the show, especially interested in your story, Ord, but he actually asked us for, freakily enough, the same request that you made previously, when we were talking off air. He wants to hear, where is it now? The Ghostbusters theme by Jerry Goldsmith. So we've got that coming up. So we have a little bit of music. Then well, it's a classic, actually.
It is, yeah.
Talking of my dad's haunted house, my dad's got an antique jukebox, and when I was about 6, he managed to get this as a single, and I used to listen to it about 10 times on the trot. So personal memories for me. So there we go. All great minds think alike.
Absolutely.
So we've got that coming up after another one, which so I think someone else suggested in the studio, Ghost Riders in the Sky by Johnny Cash. So a couple of tracks, and we're going to come back. Before we do, the last 2 songs we had on. We had 2 calls trying to get through. please do try again. Don't ring when there's a song on. Just because someone's talking in the studio, do give us a call. We will we won't be rude and cut them off, but we will put you through and you can join in the conversation. So do ring 0161 660 0545 or email, keep them coming, studio@manchesterradioonline.com. Manchester Radio Online, of course, all one word.
Add us to your MSN. Studio@manchesterradioonline.com. manchesterradioonline.com. Add us on Facebook. Go to facebook.com/manchesterradio.
Does that ring a bell to anyone? Me neither.
That could be a really tenuous link to death, though, couldn't it? So
There
you
we
could
go.
make it work.
There we go. So what we're going to do is we're going to go back toward what we were saying before. Like we've had calls referring to the time slip aspect of what she was talking about when she was in the accident. But also the question we were asking at the time, I think we sort of shied away from it, all of us, was the fear of death that people have. When if there is something out there, surely it's something we should look forward to rather than be scared of.
I think if you experience what's technically known as a near-death experience, if it's the way it was for me, I can only say to people, then I'm not scared of death, because my belief is that when your moment comes, and we've just been talking about it in studio, I believe that somebody comes to you. And I think they're there to take you over to the other side. Like if you started school and you were buddied up with somebody and they said, come on, we'll show you the ropes today so you're not feeling as though you're on your own. I think that's what happened to me in the accident. I think somebody was brought in. I think it's a flip of the coin. Somebody much above us makes a decision whether you're going to live or die, and depending on that, the flip of the coin is kind of where you go. The actual accident, for those people that were asking about it on a sort of a time span, probably took no more than 2 minutes, but as most of you probably know, when you're going through it, time means nothing because everything's in slow motion. Any sort of accident is in slow motion, and it seemed to take, in my head, minutes and minutes and minutes and minutes and minutes to finish.
Yeah,
and it probably didn't.
Took 30 seconds. However, with the whole distortion probably went on, and it does feel like
time is relative anyway, isn't it? When your adrenaline's running.
I mean, my only wish was that when this person got into the car, that I could actually see them, but it was like, Paul, you stepping into the passenger seat of my car. I know you've got into my car because I can hear you get in and I can see you get in. The only difference was the seeing bit. I didn't see the person, but I knew when they got in there and I knew when they'd left.
Yeah, there's a sense.
And it was my thought, it was to stop the traffic, to save my life and stop the traffic, and that's what they did. So,
well, we've had another email. We've had another email. There we go. There's me with the button again, messing things up. We've actually had 2 messages. One from Lee. It's a bit cryptic. I don't know what Spotify is. Anyone that's up on computer lingo?
Yeah, it's a music program. You can sort of share music. And
I'm guessing that's a hint that the music's naff.
It's the rubbish Groove Shark with all the adverts.
Yeah, that's it.
Oh, we're sponsored by Groove Shark.
Should better.
Yeah, we should be.
Hey, Groove Shark, check it out.
Yeah, Groove Shark, check it out. Oh, forgot to mention as well, Manchester Radio Online, The Watershed, sponsored this evening by the Trevor Arms in Charlton, the place to go for a pint if you don't want to go to a trendy wine bar.
I went to the Trevor Arms and it was fantastic.
Well, it is. It is a good pub, actually. It is a good pub. It's got some better real ales than it used to. Anyway, since it's been taken over by this new guy who's much better than the old guy. There we go. That sounds a bit like a Who lyric.
It does, doesn't
the
it?
new guy, better than the old guy. We will get filled again. It's like a new take on the old Who song. Also, another one. We've had Steph email in. Recently had an experience where she was driving down Maldorf Road West at night time. A person ran out into the road and they vanished before they would hit the car. That could be another one we were talking about before, where sometimes history sort of repeats itself.
Yeah.
Weather conditions, things like that. And she also wants to know about ley lines.
Interesting.
Does anyone from either Ghost Society or Ord or Rose have anything to say about ley lines?
No.
not really.
For me, if I'm okay to
Yeah, go ahead.
put into this one again, a ley line is an energy point. So if you have a certain place, a certain road that's constantly got hundreds of people walking through it, day in, day out, that particular spot is going to create quite a lot of energy. That energy will remain in that spot. So then let's say 500 years later, it's in somebody's front room, that particular spot.
Yeah.
You may get a sense as though it's someone walking through it all the time, or with a certain feel to it. And that will then be described as having ley lines within that spot.
Yeah.
One of the ways that you can try to detect ley lines is by a thing called dowsing rods.
Yeah.
I do that.
Yeah.
I know about ley lines.
They supposed to find the points of where the ley lines are. Now, as a skeptic psychic medium, which is why I'm skeptical, anything with human touch, is it really those rods moving because there's an energy, or is it because of our own hands? However, there's equipment out there that can detect different sorts of ley lines, like EMF readers, motion detectors that will detect so many different sorts of things in order to find the ley line.
Can I just ask, actually, Steve, has anything come up on that reading?
Nothing at all.
Nothing at all. So there we go. So we are ghost free. But
I'd like
odd.
to make a point, sorry, of
Go on.
EMF, is a lot of people think, you know, and it might be right that this shows that paranormal activity, you know, might be occurring and, our EMF's going off. Personally, for me, I found in places that people have felt presence and, you know, and ghosts and someone's right next to me are always in high electromagnetic field areas, because having a high electromagnetic field, being in that environment, causes you to hallucinate, causes you to feel like there's someone right next to you. So it could be, you know, like you could be sat here on your own at night, all of a sudden your imagination's going with you. All the electromagnetic field around here, you could start feeling someone in that chair right next to you. There's not. It's just the,
How do you know this down
It's just
there?
a field that the electromagnetic
Come on, there's
comes off.
But how do you know? Just because you can't see them doesn't mean they're not there.
Right, it's a scientific fact that high electromagnetic fields creates this paranoia.
Can I just say that this is something that I found interesting on our programme the other week. Joanna Lumley's Odyssey of Greece. I'm not sure if you saw it. The Oracle of Delphi, and I never knew this before, and I'm quite up on the Hellenism and things like that. I love it. But apparently, the Oracle at Delphi, there was a gas that was being sort of like sent through the rock, which they found this like tunnel down through the ground through to the nether region, so to speak, and this hallucinogenic gas is what was being fed to was being breathed in by the Oracle. And this is sort of like sent her into tongues, speaking in tongues.
That's fantastic.
Which was then translated by the people who were sort of manipulating this lady and then using it for their own ends, so to speak. But yeah, I found that brilliant. So I mean, you know, could that be, general terms, could that be an answer to, if you are being sceptical of the supernatural?
I think it could be a reason why you see a lot of ghosts in pubs.
Yeah.
Because the investigations I've done in pubs, it's once you get down in the cellar, your EMF reader's going crazy.
Yeah.
And that's where everyone always feels as, you get in the cellar, I always feel weird down there. I'm not surprised. You know what I mean? You could be Richard Dawkins, he'd still feel weird down there, you know what I mean?
Yeah, well I like I say, other people as well are saying that they find it interesting, I do as well, that we've got two Ghost Society groups in the room right now who both seem to be very cynical, not cynical,
open-minded,
open-minded, stroke skeptical
to the possibility that it could exist or it could not exist.
Yeah,
whereas
you have to. It's not cynical.
Yeah,
that's the wrong word.
Yeah, of
you
course
have to be skeptical. You have to be. If someone rings me up or contacts us and says, "Look, there's a haunting in my house. I need you to come around and sort it out," I'm not going around thinking, "There's definitely a ghost there. I need to save this person."
We're going right.
I need to discount every possible environmental, scientific reason I can find, and if there's nothing left, and there's still these experiences, and I'm experiencing them as well, then maybe there's something going on.
Okay, well, we're going to have a bit more music coming up. Hang on, can you hear... This sounds like I'm making this up now, right? Can you hear something strange? Is that next door?
Music.
That's all right then. Panic over. We're going to have a bit more music, then we're going to talk to Stephen about Ruth Ellis. And then we're also going to come back to Rose. And we're going to have a general discussion as well. Again, I don't know why people are doing this, whether it's some kind of wind-up or not. If you're going to ring in when we're talking. Don't ring in when the music's on. I'm not au fait particular with this system. I know that sounds really lame, it's the 4th week and everything, but I'm no good at actually speaking to people while there's a song on and then putting them through. So I'm going to have to play it randomly, ring in, and I'll just put you on. And if you're a nutcase, all the better. If
All nutcases, mate.
no, whatever. But you will get through. That's absolutely fine. So that's how we're going to do it. So a bit more music, and I'm going to come back to that right after this. And we've got here we go. This is one I was just able to find then. We're talking about something spiritual. I couldn't find anything to do with ghosts or monsters. So how about this?
Your Manchester, your music. ManchesterRadioOnline.com.
So if you do want to ring in, 0161 660 0545. Email studio@manchesterradioonline.com. A couple of people emailing in asking, are there any ley lines in Manchester? Not that I know of.
Apparently there are.
Oh, go on, Rose. Tell us about that.
Not like major ones, but
Yeah.
going through town.
Can I tell you something that I've heard once, and this might be BS, as the Americans would say, that Gorton, where I'm from growing up,
Gortown.
apparently, which was originally Gorton, you're quite right, Rose, Gorton, the name comes from Goretown, where there was a famous Roman battle, and apparently the brook in the, what's it called now? There's a stream that runs through Gorton, apparently, and that brook ran red with the gore from the battle, hence Goretown, which became Gorton. People have suggested in the past that has got ley lines, and that is one of what people have suggested. There's a very high proportion.
There's a nice sort of monastery there, isn't there?
Yeah.
That's probably built on a ley line.
But there's a very high proportion though of violent things. Anyone that's been out around Gorton on a Friday or Saturday night will be able to tell you that. But Gorton is well known for violence, and it is quite a negative area. If you go through there, you do sort of pick it up. Well, I did anyway. I lived there for years, and that's why I'm the way I am, I suppose.
That probably would be the battles, not the ley lines.
Well,
Right.
Brady and Hindley.
Yeah.
They lived on what is alleged to be a very strong ley line, that particular area, that estate.
Right.
And a lot of crime, a lot of violent crime again, around that area. So, I don't know, maybe it's a load of nonsense.
Ley lines aren't good places to live.
Ley lines aren't good places. If you're buying a house and the estate agent says, by the way, you've got a nice little ley line next to you, don't go for it.
I do believe though, negative can filter over a place. Like if you walk into a room where two people has had an argument, like a real nasty argument, and you walk in afterwards, you feel there's something bad's gone on in that room.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that's just it's a natural.
Well, ley lines
without having any prior knowledge of there being an argument.
Yeah.
So how does that work if there's no such thing as energy?
Well, I never said there was no such thing as energy.
So no.
Are you putting words into my mouth, Paul?
Gentlemen, I just wanted to ask Steve. I just wanted to ask Stephen from the East Manchester Paranormal Society. You mentioned to me before about Ruth Ellis. Do you want to tell us a little bit about that?
I do, yeah. Ruth Ellis is actually, well, she's not a descendant of mine, but I have 6 children to one woman.
Yep.
And the woman that I have 6 children to, she is the granddaughter to Ruth Ellis.
Could you just explain to listeners who Ruth Ellis was?
I was going to come to that. Ruth Ellis has the significant distinction of being the last woman ever to be hanged for murder in this country because of a crime of passion. But the reason why we're mentioning it is because if anybody remembers, Most Haunted did a programme to do with Ruth Ellis, and Derek Okora was supposed to be picking things up that actually I've read in books. I've got books on Ruth Ellis, and Georgina would have been my mother-in-law if I'd have married her daughter, and she told me stuff that was readily available.
Right, okay. I'm not sure. Did you hear that then, Rose, by the way? Or anyone else?
I heard that like it sounded.
No, that didn't sound like.
It sounded like a motorbike to me.
Yeah.
I must be on edge. That's all it is.
No, it does sound like a car or a motorbike.
We've had an email from Simon. I think Simon's a regular emailer, actually.
Hi, Simon.
Hi, Simon. He always tends to have an odd way of looking at things. Hi, Simon. From Simon. Me and my mate Dave were in an old farmhouse together. We saw this is what it was like the other week. Saw a real ghost. He flushed a chain of the upstairs loo. Farmer Jackie was commonly known as in the area, had string around his trousers and a ripped flat cap. So there we go. Not all ghosts are something to be scared of. Sometimes they smell a little bit. And there we Simon, keep them coming, mate. Fantastic. And also, let's just see, there's another one come through. Yeah, we've also had Lee email in saying that they were in a cemetery one night. It was very, very windy, very, very... and they were all having a laugh, they were all joking about drinking loads of cider probably. And all of a sudden they came across a grave with one lit candle, nothing surrounding it, perfectly lit, and they all freaked out. Possibly under the influence of magic mushrooms, might I suggest. So anyway, thank you very much to Rose. Thank you to Steve and the other Steve, who's been very quiet, but he's been an avid listener. We've also they're from East Manchester Paranormal Society. Google them. Get on the website. Also, by the way, Rose. Anyone that's interested in fantastic Manchester music, Rose is part of the Outer Party. And I'll tell you what, I've heard them sing, and Rose has got a fantastic voice. Very much sounds like who did I say last time? Grace Slick, yeah, great, very, very Grace Slick.
I don't think so.
Well, I think you do. We've also got Manchester Haunted with us, Andy Lewin, Paul Hunt. If you're interested, check them out. Brilliant. I was talking to Paul before. We may be doing another special very soon where Paul's going to come on, do some live readings. We didn't have time for the Ouija board, unfortunately, and we didn't have enough calls coming through. Well, we had 4 calls come through, all when songs were playing. That's typical. Either that or it's ghosts messing about. So hopefully Paul and myself will do something very similar in a few weeks. Also thanks to Ord for a fantastic story. Very, very interesting. A few people were asking about time, things like that. We haven't got time to go into that, ironically enough. And well, thank you to everyone. And thanks for listening.
Thank you.
Brilliant. And we're going to go for some music. After that, oh, by the way, James Stanage, I was speaking to him last week, name dropping there. He was saying when you finish, never finish by saying goodbye. He calls it the Gloria Gaynor principle. Never can say goodbye. So I'm not going to do that. I am going to say thanks for listening. We've got music playing throughout the night. And next week's show, what we're going to do is we're going to go along with the idea of if there was to be an explosion at the House of Parliament and it was all wiped out, everyone try and keep the cheers down to a minimum. If all the politicians died out tomorrow, what would be our manifesto? If we were in charge, what would we do? NHS, immigration, education, anything you can think of. That's next week's topic. We may have a parliamentary politician in. That's not been confirmed yet, but we've definitely got a Green Party member coming in, and I'm trying to get someone else who's a right-wing fascist just to make things interesting. So, thank you for listening, and enjoy your Halloween weekend. Stay tuned in for some great music.
Manchester Radio Online is brought to you by Amicus Computing.